Seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has delivered a response worthy of all the hype surrounding the most shocking transfer in recent Formula One history. After securing his best qualifying position with Ferrari and finishing fourth on the grid for the Austrian Grand Prix, the driver's words after qualifying showed much more than mere satisfaction. Significant changes are taking place internally at Maranello, changes that could completely transform the Italian team's organizational structure. However, does Hamilton's sudden improvement genuinely indicate that Ferrari has finally found the right direction, or are we just witnessing another moment of optimism before further frustration? What do these positive signs really mean, considering the disagreements that characterized Hamilton's early months at Ferrari? To understand the real significance of this moment, we must go back a few months. Lewis Hamilton's announcement that he was leaving Mercedes for Ferrari brought the world of Formula One to a standstill. It was a change that no one had anticipated, a change that promised to radically transform the competitive balance on the grid. However, the experience of the early months differed drastically from expectations. Hamilton joined Ferrari carrying the prestige of his 7 world titles, but also facing the responsibility of validating one of the most daring choices of his professional career. At the age of 39, he left Mercedes, which had taken him to the pinnacle of motorsport for years, and placed all his hopes in a Ferrari that had experienced a frustrating season in 2024. The first races showed a Hamilton who was clearly out of sync with the Italian car. The 2025 Ferrari was a completely different machine from what he was used to at Mercedes. The driving style that made him a legend needed to be completely reworked. While Charles Leclerc, already fully integrated into the Ferrari philosophy, was able to get the most out of the car, Hamilton struggled to find the ideal pace. The tension intensified when the first disagreements emerged in the team's radio communications. The Miami episode proved particularly revealing, when Hamilton directly challenged the team's strategy that kept him behind Leclerc, producing one of the most embarrassing radio transmissions of the season. At that point, it became clear that the harmony between Hamilton and Ferrari was far from ideal. The Italian press began speculating about possible changes in the team's structure, with rumors that even Fred Vasseur, the team principal, could bear the consequences for the decline in performance. The atmosphere in Maranello became increasingly tense, and Hamilton found himself at the epicenter of a crisis that he himself had provoked by choosing to wear red. However, a drastic transformation took place for the Austrian Grand Prix. Ferrari introduced a new floor in Spielberg, a technical evolution that promised to be the turning point the team so badly needed. During the free practice sessions, the first indicators were not encouraging. Hamilton was recording times between 6 and 9/10 of a second slower than his main competitors, a considerable difference for someone of his caliber. However, when it came to qualifying, it was as if a switch had been flipped. Hamilton not only dramatically improved his performance, but also managed to secure a spot on the second row of the grid, alongside Charles Leclerc, who will start from the front row alongside pole position winner Lando Norris. Most notable was the way Hamilton characterized the team's performance. He used expressions such as exceptional and world-class to describe Ferrari's operational work during qualifying. For those who have followed the tensions of recent months, this change in tone is quite surprising. Hamilton was precise in recognizing aspects that had previously been sources of conflict: communication gaps, information about movements on the track, strategic positioning. Everything that had caused irritation in previous races was transformed into what he called a world-class operation. This does not happen instantly without a substantial change in the team's internal organization. Furthermore, Hamilton acknowledged that he believes he has the ability to finish second if he had completed his last lap flawlessly. This renewed self-confidence is a clear indicator that he is finally beginning to feel comfortable with the Ferrari car. More significantly, he mentioned that he is getting closer in terms of performance to Charles, which is key to establishing a balanced competitive dynamic. This brings us to a fundamental aspect of this narrative. Charles Leclerc has always been considered Ferrari's unofficial lead driver. the one who understands every detail of the car and rarely changes its settings because he has completely mastered the machine. For Hamilton to get closer to that level of familiarity is a milestone that could completely change the internal hierarchy of the team. Hamilton's comments about working with Fred Vasseur also deserve special consideration. He spoke about putting all the pieces of the puzzle in the right place, an analogy that suggests that the initial difficulties were being methodically resolved. This contrasts dramatically with rumors that Vasseur was under pressure due to disappointing results. Hamilton explicitly praised the work of the team as a whole, stating that everyone is coming together, protecting each other, and blocking out all outside interference. This represents a direct message to the Italian press and critics who had been questioning Ferrari's structure. Hamilton is publicly supporting the team's current leadership. However, we must be realistic about expectations for Sunday's race. Hamilton has shown caution by avoiding mentioning a possible podium finish, an attitude that reveals maturity and perhaps a lesson learned from previous frustrations. He mentioned that in recent races he always said he couldn't wait to get his first podium for Ferrari, but this time he chose a different approach. "I'll stay quiet and try to do a better job tomorrow." This change in stance is significant. Hamilton is showing that he has learned from his previous mistakes and prefers to let the car demonstrate its capabilities on its own. He even made an interesting comparison with his last victory, which took place 945 days ago at Silverstone, saying that he hopes he won't have to wait that long to get his first podium for Ferrari. The outlook for this situation leads us to wonder whether we are really witnessing the beginning of the true Hamilton era at Ferrari, or whether this is just another moment of optimism that could vanish at the first corner on Sunday. The recent history of Formula One is full of examples of teams that have made occasional progress without being able to maintain their evolution in the long term. However, there are elements that suggest that something different may be happening. The combination of concrete technical improvements, such as the new floor, with an apparent improvement in the team's internal dynamics, may represent the formula Ferrari needed to finally get the best out of Hamilton. The question is whether this evolution will be lasting. Hamilton is right in saying that Ferrari generally performs better in races than in qualifying, which would be a good indicator for Sunday. But we also know that Formula One can be unforgiving of premature expectations. What we can confirm with certainty is that something has fundamentally changed in the relationship between Hamilton and Ferrari. The statements after qualifying in Spielberg reveal a more confident driver, a more cohesive team, and a structure that finally seems to be working in harmony. Only time will tell if this will translate into consistent results. But one thing is certain. After months of difficult adaptation, internal tensions, and questions about his decision to leave Mercedes, Hamilton finally seems to have found his place at Ferrari. And if this trend continues in the next few races, we may be witnessing the beginning of a new epic chapter in the seven-time world champion's career. The question remains, has Hamilton finally cracked the Ferrari code, or will Sunday show us that there is still a long way to go? One thing is certain. Formula One has become much more interesting with a motivated Hamilton and a Ferrari that seems to be finding its direction. What do you think? Is this really the transformation everyone has been waiting for, or is it still too early to celebrate? Leave your opinion in the comments because I want to know what you think about this turnaround behind the scenes at Maranello.